Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the world's highest railway arch bridge over the Chenab River. He'll also dedicate multi-billion-dollar worth infra projects to the nation. After clashing over trade, tech and students in US universities, Trump and Xi connect on call. The US President says his talk with Xi produced a very positive conclusion. NATO defense ministers approve new hybrid strategy for alliance. US's Pete Hegseth expresses confidence that alliance members would toe Donald Trump's line of increasing military spends to 5% of GDP from existing 2%. And Russia says blowing up bridges is terrorism, stresses on taking it into account in future talks. Ukraine does not take responsibility for the bridge attacks. Now, Chinese leader Xi Jinping has held a phone call with US President Donald Trump on Thursday. The talks took place at Trump's request. That's what the Chinese state media has reported without elaborating, and they've come as Washington and Beijing have been clashing over areas such as trade and student visas. Later, in a Truth Social post, Donald Trump said he held a very good phone call on trade with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, adding that both the leaders had invited each other to visit their respective countries. Trump also said US and Chinese teams will meet shortly, adding there should be no longer be any questions on rare earth products. President Xi Jinping told Trump that the two should correct the course of bilateral relations. The call follows officials from the world's two biggest economies accusing each other of jeopardizing a trade war truce agreed last month in Geneva. Trump, who has roiled markets in recent months with successive rounds of tariffs, argued on Friday that China had totally violated the bilateral de-escalation deal. Beijing and Washington agreed in Geneva to slash staggeringly high tariffs on each other's goods for 90 days. China's Commerce Ministry said this week the Trump administration had since introduced discriminatory restrictive measures, including revoking Chinese student visas in the United States. And NATO defense ministers have been gathering in Brussels to approve a new hybrid strategy for the alliance. The defense ministers are discussing how to meet Donald Trump's demand for significant increases in defense spending less than 3 weeks ahead of a key summit of the alliance at The Hague. To meet new NATO targets, Latvian defense minister Andris Spruds said that a 5% spending is absolutely crucial. Sweden too echoed the same thing, saying it would like to see NATO reaching 5% defense spending in 2030. Ahead of the meeting, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has proposed alliance members boost defense spending to 3.5% of GDP and commit a further 1.5% to broader security-related spending. He expects allies to agree on what he calls a historic new capability targets, adding that the goal is to better balance defense contributions between Europe, Canada and the United States.
Will be a considerable extra investment, and this is why I predicted in The Hague we will decide on a much higher spending target for all the nations in NATO, because we have to invest in our air defense systems, we have to invest in our let's say long-range missiles, we have to invest in our maneuverable land formations, command and control systems. All of this has to happen. And these mean huge investments. We need all over NATO territory. And by the way, doing this will also equalize what we are spending with what the United States is spending.
And Rutte also said there is a need to boost spending on air defenses, long-range missiles, land forces and command and control systems. However, details of the new investment plan will likely continue to be negotiated until the very eve of the NATO summit at The Hague. But at the same time, Spain has said that it stands by its defense spending target of 2% of GDP. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles said this as pressure grows from NATO leadership and the United States for the Mediterranean country to increase its defense spending. She added that what is important is that each country is able to meet the objectives it has set itself. Also on the sidelines of the meeting, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth asserted that NATO allies are nearing a consensus on committing 5% of GDP to defense spending.
Make that determination, but this alliance, we believe, in a matter of weeks will be committing to 5%, 3.5% in hard military and 1.5% in infrastructure and defense-related activities. That combination constitutes a real commitment, and we think every country can step up.
Now, Hegseth's President Donald Trump has signed a new travel ban preventing people from dozens of countries from entering the U.S., reviving one of the most controversial measures from his first term. There are an additional 7 countries, the nationals of which face partial travel restrictions. The countries facing the total ban have been found to be deficient in screening and vetting and reportedly pose a very high risk, that is a security risk, to the United States.
US President Donald Trump signed a proclamation on Wednesday banning the nationals of 12 countries from entering the United States, saying the move was needed to protect against foreign terrorists and other security threats.
Today, I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise, new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world.
The move bans all travel to the United States by nationals of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. It will go into effect on June 9th. Trump also imposed a partial ban on travelers from 7 countries: Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. Some temporary work visas from these countries will be allowed. Trump said the measure was spurred by a makeshift flamethrower attack on a Jewish protest in Colorado that U.S. authorities blamed on a man they said was in the country illegally.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. Very simply, we cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe.
The ban will, however, not apply to athletes competing in the 2026 World Cup, which the United States is co-hosting with Canada and Mexico, as well as the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. The proclamation is the second time Trump has ordered a ban on travel from certain countries. He signed a similar order in 2017. During his first term in office, Trump announced a ban on travelers from 7 majority Muslim nations, a policy that went through several iterations before it was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2018. Anamika Pandey's report, DD India.
The African Union on Thursday criticized a new U.S. travel ban affecting several countries, including 7 African nations. Signed by President Donald Trump, the order bars citizens from Somalia, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Sudan, Yemen, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Haiti, as well as Iran from entering the U.S. The AU warned the move could damage long-standing diplomatic and cultural ties and urged the U.S. to engage in dialogue. In Somalia, citizens expressed outrage, calling the ban unjust. A partial visa restriction was also imposed on 7 additional countries, including Cuba and Venezuela. And at the same time, Donald Trump has ramped up action against U.S. universities, banning visas for all foreign students coming to Harvard and threatening to strip Columbia of its academic accreditation, claiming it ignored anti-Semitism on campus.
In a furious escalation of his campaign against the academic elite, President Donald Trump has issued an executive proclamation banning all the new international students from attending Howard University effective immediately. The White House order, issued late Wednesday, suspends the entry of foreign students to begin studies at Harvard for 6 months. The proclamation also threatens the visa status of current international enrollees, nearly 20% of the student body. The announcement follows earlier failed attempts to cut off Harvard's access to foreign students. The administration has already stripped $3.2 billion in federal funds and vowed to exclude Harvard from future government contracts. The Trump administration also issued a warning to Columbia University, threatening to strip its accreditation over allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. Earlier in March, the Trump administration put $400 million of Columbia's funding under review, prompting the university to implement new policies to address anti-Semitism concerns. Losing accreditation would deal a devastating blow to Columbia, cutting off federal funding, student financial aid, and research grants. The university confirmed it is addressing the concerns with its accrediting body while asserting that Columbia is deeply committed to combating anti-Semitism on its campus. Bureau Report, DD India.
Canada has prepared possible reprisals, while the European Union reported progress in trade talks as new US metal tariffs triggered more disruption in the global economy and added urgency to negotiations with Washington. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada is prepared to strike back against the United States if talks with Washington to remove Trump's tariffs did not succeed. Canada's Labour Union Unifor called for retaliatory tariffs, while Ontario Premier Doug Ford urged Carney not to sit back and let President Trump steamroll. And still to come on DD India Newshour. The European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde cuts key rate for the 8th time in a year to 2%, while saying the ECB is in a good place to deal with uncertainty. South Korea's new President Lee makes his first moves to tackle economic crisis. And India's multi-party delegations reaffirm anti-terror stand globally.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Russia will respond to Ukraine's latest attacks as and when its military sees fit. That's what the Kremlin has said on Thursday, accusing the Kyiv of state terrorism and confirming that President Vladimir Putin had told Donald Trump that Moscow is obliged to retaliate. Ukraine used drones to strike Russian heavy bomber planes at air bases in Serbia and as far north at the weekend, and Russia also accused it of blowing up rail bridges in the south of the country, killing 7 people. Russia has not yet provided evidence that Ukrainian leaders ordered the rail attacks, and Kyiv has not acknowledged responsibility or taken responsibility. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov highlighted comments made by Putin a day earlier about the railway attacks. The spokesperson noted, however, that Putin had supported the view of Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at a meeting on Wednesday that working-level contacts with Ukraine should continue. The European Central Bank has cut interest rates as expected on Thursday, but hinted at a pause in its year-long easing cycle after inflation finally returned to its 2% target. The ECB has lowered borrowing costs 8 times, or by 2% points, since last June, seeking to prop up a Eurozone economy that was struggling even before erratic US economic and trade policies dealt it further blows. With inflation now just under 2%, ECB President Christine Lagarde has said the central bank for the 20 countries that share the euro was in a good position, which investors took as signaling a break in cuts, if not an end to policy easing.
And the Governing Council today decided to lower the 3 key ECB interest rates by 25 basis points. In particular, the decision to lower the deposit facility rate, the rate through which we steer the monetary policy stance, is based on our updated assessment of the inflation outlook, the dynamics of underlying inflation, and the strength of monetary policy transmission.
Now, with US President Trump attacking US universities, including esteemed Ivy League names like Harvard, many in Europe are hoping to attract talent no longer inclined to work in the United States. Germany is among those countries starting new projects. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Good evening from Delhi. Lars, what do we know about this new German project related to students?
Well, first of all, we know that it will be tied to the Hasso-Plattner Institute and thus to the University of Potsdam as well. There will be a new campus nicely situated near the center of Potsdam. It will have a focus on AI technologies, and most importantly, it will be part of Germany's university landscape, but it will be run more in a, let's say, in an American way, like a private university with no political interference. It will in many ways resemble education or research and development faculties like Harvard, and thus be a very attractive alternative for international top talent. The Hasso-Plattner Institute currently has 34 professorships, and that number is set to actually double. But as Hasso-Plattner himself says, it's not about the number, it's about the quality of people they're attracting. And obviously they're aiming high in these dire times when American universities are under pressure with regards to their teachings, as well as to who can be taught there. Some top people are actually looking for alternatives. Okay. Many of them obviously are or were in the US as immigrants, many from India, China, but also from Africa and other parts of the world. And for these people, Potsdam, just outside Berlin, wants to be an attractive destination.
Well, certainly. Now, also Lars, how important is the tech and especially the AI sector for Germany?
Well, it's massively important for every country, I guess. AI is the ultimate future technology, and we're having some R&D here already with especially the universities of Karlsruhe, Darmstadt and Munich, pretty well known in the sector. But obviously that hasn't been enough, as we can tell simply by the fact that Germany is not currently playing a leading role in AI in the world. But with this particular technology reaching into more and more industries outside the tech sector, including, of course, cars, energy, and just generally the industrial sector, we know there is definitely room to grow. But Germany has not necessarily had the best infrastructure yet. We're a country with an education system that is often not moving fast enough, is often not adapting to new realities fast enough. And that's precisely why this new institute will follow different rules. Will it be enough to get the world's brightest minds to work here? Hasso-Plattner certainly thinks so. He said in a press conference now, quote, "We have a historic opportunity to attract top talent over the next 3.5 years." And that, of course, is a direct reference to Donald Trump and his policies that are destroying the education system in the US and in that way, of course, creating potential elsewhere.
And South Korea's new President Lee Jae-myung held his first cabinet meeting on Thursday, focusing on devising an emergency package to address stagnating economic growth and aid households. Lee took office on Wednesday just hours after riding a wave of anger over a brief martial law imposed by Yoon Suk-yeol to win the snap election. In brief remarks open to the media, Lee told the carryover cabinet left that there was no time to waste in getting to work as the people have been facing hardship. Meanwhile, South Korea's ruling party has sought to put a revision of the Commercial Act to a parliamentary vote on the 12th of June. Lee has so far only nominated a political ally and legislative veteran as Prime Minister and is racing to form a cabinet and staff his office to maintain continuity in administration. Now, U.S. trade deficit more than halved in April, government data showed on Thursday, pulling back from a record on a plunge in imports as President Trump's global tariffs kicked in. The world's biggest economy lodged a trade gap of $61.6 billion in the same month that Trump unveiled 10% levies on almost all trading partners. This was down by 55.5% from March, said the U.S. Commerce Department. The White House has strongly criticized the forecast that Donald Trump's sweeping policy bill could drastically increase the national deficit, while Elon Musk renewed his attacks on the president's agenda. The nonpartisan CBO projects Trump's main bill would increase the U.S. deficit by $2.4 trillion by 2034. Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy chief of staff, rejected the CBO's report as biased and said the projection does not reflect reality. Trump's key bill for a second term faces congressional opposition. It plans to extend 2017 tax cuts by increasing debt and reducing support for low-income Americans. Meanwhile, tech magnate Elon Musk has reiterated his disapproval, having previously branded the bill as a disgusting abomination. The bill passed the House but faces tough opposition in the Senate, where talks are intensifying. Trump wants a Senate vote by the 4th of July, which is the U.S. Independence Day. Now let's take a look at some of the stories making the news across the world. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed his Brazilian counterpart, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, at the Elysee Presidential Palace in Paris on Thursday. The meeting in Paris comes as Lula is set to attend the United Nations Oceans Conference in Nice next week, ahead of Brazil's hosting this year's UN COP30 Climate Summit in Belém in November. Pope Leo met members of the International Vatican Commission on Sexual Abuse Prevention in the Vatican City on Thursday. The commission was founded in 2014 and is made up of abuse prevention experts with a mandate to advise the Pope and implement best practices for protection in local churches around the world. A minor earthquake in southern Italy has caused partial collapse of a wall and a portion of a vault at the Pompeii archaeological site, authorities said on Thursday. The quake, with a magnitude of 3.2, was the latest in a series of tremors centered on the nearby Campi Flegrei supervolcano close to the city of Naples. And Muslim pilgrims gathered for noon prayers on Thursday during Arafah Day, the most significant day of the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Pilgrims will remain at Mount Arafat until sunset before heading to Muzdalifah to collect pebbles for the symbolic stoning of the devil, which begins on Eid al-Adha. The feast of sacrifice will be observed by Muslims worldwide on Friday. Now, India's economic engagement with the resource-rich Central Asian republics is witnessing a renewed push, signaling a strategic pivot towards deeper collaboration in what New Delhi terms its extended neighborhood. A treasure trove of natural resources, oil, gas and uranium that could fuel India's ambitions and power its future. The message is clear: India's extended neighborhood is now closer than ever. Here's a report.
Engagement with the resource-rich Central Asian republics of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan is witnessing a renewed push, signaling a strategic pivot towards deeper collaboration in what New Delhi terms its extended neighborhood. At the Central Asia Business Council, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar welcomed the foreign ministers and highlighted the main objectives.
One is to deepen the existing cooperation, both in terms of volume and in terms of quality. Two, We need to diversify our trade baskets so that all of us have more options, we have more competition, and in a way we are looking for new opportunities. And the third is that we need to introduce greater sustainability and more predictability in our economic interactions.
Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs expressed hopes of becoming India's long-term strategic partner.
Today, the Indian business community is at the forefront of innovations and plays a crucial role in global efforts to ensure sustainable growth and prosperity for all nations. Kazakhstan is firmly committed to deepening its comprehensive ties with India, which is our key strategic partner in the South Asia and far beyond.
A primary focus of this partnership lies in Central Asia's vast energy and natural resource reserves, including oil, gas, and uranium, which are vital for India's growing energy demands as well. Beyond resources, key sectors for cooperation include infrastructure development along with digital landscape in Central Asia, also presents a significant opportunity for India's robust IT and technology sector. Pharmaceuticals, agriculture, education, healthcare, and tourism are also identified as promising areas for increased trade and investment. Strategic importance of Central Asia to India's economic and security interests is undeniable. The concerted efforts from both sides, coupled with shared historical and cultural ties, suggest a promising trajectory for the India-Central Asia business relationship in the years to come. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, in a major boost to economic ties, India and Kyrgyzstan have officially ratified their bilateral investment treaty. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Kyrgyz Foreign Minister Zinbek Kulubay exchanged the instruments of ratification in New Delhi. Originally signed in 2019 in Bishkek, the treaty will come into force starting today, replacing the older agreement from the year 2000. The treaty aims to provide a secure, transparent and balanced investment environment, protecting investor interests while upholding the regulatory rights of both the nations. Now, highlighting its benefits, the Finance Minister said that the India-Kyrgyz BIT marks a significant milestone in strengthening bilateral economic relations and fostering a secure and predictable environment as well. It aims to promote and protect interests of investors of either country in the territory or the other country with various key features. Also, India's global outreach under Operation Synindur has been nearing completion, with 5 of the 7 delegations back after successful diplomatic missions. In Belgium, Ravi Shankar Prasad's team engaged the EU's leaders on anti-terrorism cooperation. Meanwhile, Shashi Tharoor's delegation currently in Washington reported a terrific global response. Here's the latest updates.
India's global outreach under Operation Synindur is now in its final leg. Out of 7 multi-party delegations conveying India's firm stance against terrorism, 5 have returned after successful visits to their respective countries. An all-party delegation led by BJP parliamentarian Ravi Shankar Prasad engaged with members of the European Parliament, including those from the Delegation for Relations with India, Foreign Affairs Committee and Security and Defence Subcommittee in Belgium.
Our Indian delegation, which sent by our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, we explained to all these people. They are also condemned the Pakistan attitude and also giving support to the initiative what India is taking this delegation. That is more successfully we are doing this kind of program. We are happy that India's message will go throughout the world. That is the opportunity we had.
Back home, 2 all-party delegations, one led by Sanjay Jha and the other led by DMK parliamentarian Kanimori, met the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New Delhi. The delegation visited multiple countries to engage with audiences, policymakers and elected officials on Pakistan's long-standing support for terrorism and India's evolving approach post-Operation Synindur. In Washington, during the final leg of its tour, the delegation led by Shashi Tharoor reported receiving a terrific response from international counterparts, highlighting strong global support for India's anti-terrorism message.
our message was all throughout, we are not interested in a conflict. We are just showing the terrorists and their handlers, their bases, their launch pads, what's what. This is the price you're going to have to pay. And honestly, every single day, to anyone who asked, and we had, if you look at our foreign minister's Twitter timeline, you'll see so many foreign ministers calling him and so on. Message exactly the same throughout. If they stop, we stop. And so the moment they signal they'll stop, maybe thanks to the US, in which case many thanks, we stopped. Right.
The multi-party delegations comprising 59 lawmakers and several former diplomats visited 33 countries, including members of the European Union, to reinforce India's global message against terrorism. Bureau Report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. We'll be speaking with our expert guests about the ramifications of the return of Trump travel ban, and if links to terrorism and state-sponsored terrorism is one of the reasons for imposing the ban on the country, why is Pakistan not on the list? And on World Environment Day, Prime Minister Modi calls to reinforce dedication to environmental conservation. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at top stories. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the world's highest railway arch bridge over the Chenab River. He'll also dedicate to the nation multi-billion-dollar worth of infrastructure projects. After clashing over trade, tech and students in US universities, Trump and Xi connect on call. The US President says his talk with Xi produced a very positive conclusion. NATO defense ministers have approved a new hybrid strategy for the alliance. US's Pete Hegseth has expressed confidence that the alliance members will toe Donald Trump's line on increasing military spending to 5% of GDP from the existing 2%. Also, Russia says blowing up bridges is terrorism, stresses on taking it into account in future talks. Ukraine does not take responsibility for the bridge attacks. Let me now take you back to one of our top stories, which is about Trump travel ban redux. 12 countries, their nationals have been banned from entering the US. It comes into effect a little later, though, in a few days of time. So some lag time is there, some leeway is there for people to make sure that they have the right arrangements so that they're no longer in the US when they're no longer required, because Donald Trump said, we don't need these people. Now, what are the ramifications of this? And we'll also talk about why have certain countries been included and some excluded, although they fit that criteria that's been involved for inclusion in this list. We're joined by our guest, Major General Dhruv C. Katoch, retired. He's Director, India Foundation. Good evening to you, General Katoch. What do you make of this version, or this Trump travel ban 2.0? It's slightly different from the first time around that Donald Trump imposed these travel bans, and that was also a fairly chaotic step, carried out in a very chaotic manner. This time around, things might be different, do you think?
Well, thank you, Gautam. Gautam, very frankly, it's very difficult to interpret what President Trump really has in mind. But in this particular case, the travel ban on the countries which he has given, it is self-evident that these are the countries which have a certain measure of hostility to the United States. And in each of these countries, there is no specific commercial, trade or any other interest which the US has with them. So I don't see the US having seeing any geopolitical advantage in any of the countries which they have banned. You have countries like Somalia and Iran in this grouping. So for him, I think for President Trump, I think it makes a reasonable degree of sense as far as this ban is concerned. However, the concern, of course, the larger concern, as you have mentioned in your opening remarks, is certain countries which have been left out, and that we will see as to how that plays out.
Yes, because if terrorism and state-sponsored terrorism is one of the criteria, there are two more prominent ones. Visa overstay is one as well. Why isn't Pakistan on this list?
No, you see, while I have spoken with quite a few Americans, including some of their diplomats in the last few years, and the question of Pakistan always comes up. And the response which I have been given is that we understand we have certain challenges with Pakistan, but they fulfill our geopolitical interests. Now, I think Trump is looking beyond Pakistan at this point of time. He's looking very closely at Afghanistan and how to build his relationship there. As it is, the US state is funding Afghanistan on a monthly basis. A large amount of the US taxpayers' money is really going into Afghanistan right now. And they are looking at a future by which their presence or their influence will remain in Afghanistan. And I think for that purpose, they need Pakistan. So regardless of the fact that Pakistan continues to support terrorism, especially as we have seen when we are looking at organizations like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and others, the Hizbul Mujahideen and others, their headquarters are based in Pakistan. Yet we find the Americans and the West aren't really too concerned about it because they aren't being directly impacted. So so far as it concerns American interest and Western interest, I don't think terrorism is the key. The key only comes in as to what are America's geostrategic interests or commercial interests. And let us say if they weren't being impacted, I presume then he may have actually gone in for the ban on Pakistan. But I don't see that happening. In fact, I see the relationship between Pakistan and United States, while not being not becoming very cozy, at least I don't see them getting too far distant from each other.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing is that Donald Trump, its strategic rival of America is China, and with steps like these, isn't Donald Trump alienating these countries and pushing them in China's direction? Because look at the kind of things, look at the kind of concerns the African Union has raised today.
Actually, that may be so, that certain actions of Trump's are putting those countries away, and most likely they will fall into the lap of China. But I don't think President Trump is too concerned about that. I have a feeling that he is going to go in for a deal with China. And should that happen, and if they go in for a deal with China, I'm quite convinced that China will even dump bricks to to have a deal which they consider worthwhile with the United States. So everybody at this point of time is playing for their own interest. They are not looking at gaining influence worldwide in that sense. So even for China, if necessary, they will dump bricks, they will dump everything else. And if they get a good trade deal, they'll jump in with the Americans. That, I think, will present a larger danger for India than President Trump cozying up with the Pakistanis.
Okay, and so how should India then conduct itself? Because Trump and Xi have just had a phone call today.
No, yes, and I think as per President Trump's statement, he was quite happy with the way that phone call went.
Yes.
So I see a rapprochement taking place with between the United States and China. How long that will last, we will see, because there are other ramifications also, especially with respect to the way the Russia-China relationship is developing. So considering that, as far as India is concerned, I think we are doing everything right. We are following a reasonably independent policy. We have got different interests as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, and we have got different interests as far as the continental shelf is concerned. And we are following these separately. Indian policy has dehyphenated itself from all these conflict areas. And I think that has been a very positive step on the last 10 years. So whichever way it goes, I think we will maintain our interest, regardless of the fact that the Americans go with the Chinese and with the Pakistanis. We will have good relationship with the Russians, with the United States, with Europe, and I think we will have a sort of a working relationship with China also.
Okay, let's also quickly talk about how this time around there's a partial ban as well on certain countries, and there are exemptions too that have been given in terms of those who will not be required to leave the US apart from all the others, and these exemptions also include sports persons and coaches, because the US is hosting major global sporting events in the coming couple of years. But apart from that, what do you make of these kind of provisions?
No, I think President Trump is really working to his own constituency at home. He's got the MAGA constituency, and he will really do everything he can to preserve those interests. As far as these exemptions are concerned, again, anything which suits the Americans, I think he will have a waiver for those particular groups of people. Now, I don't see that being extended to the education sector as far as the colleges are concerned, because that is not really his vote bank, and that is not the MAGA grouping either. But in all other things, like in sports or something, or anything else where he feels that it may be advantageous to the United States, the morality and principles do not come in. Their American interests, or what he perceives to be American interests, will come in, and that's the way he's going to play the game.
Mm-hmm. And the last time round when this sort of a travel ban was imposed, the US Supreme Court had approved it. So it would be safe to assume that if this set of bans, the latest set of bans, if it's challenged somehow in the judiciary, then again Donald Trump will emerge as someone to have taken a well thought out step?
You see, even if the travel, if the ban is overturned, it will be done by the lower level courts. As far as the American states are concerned, and then after that he will simply go to the Supreme Court and get it overturned. But at this point of time, the sense I get is that the American public opinion, especially his constituency, is very firmly behind him. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen any ripple effects of any of his policies within the majority of the Americans which form part of his constituency. So I don't see any changes taking place.
Mm-hmm. And going further, do you feel that there might be more additions, subtractions, some variations where this travel ban is concerned?
I think it is going to be, the education sector is going to be very seriously affected. Once, simply because the way the way wokeism has developed in most of the American universities, it was something which many people found repulsive, including me, when I used to watch what is happening in the United States. You cannot have universities running political agendas of that nature and affecting all students. I remember there was a student from India who had gone, whom I had met when he was here, and when he went back to the States, that was about a few months back, he was surrounded by people and they said, "Do you support Hamas?" And when he said, "I don't support any political party, I'm a neutral person," they nearly beat him up, So we had a culture which was existing in the United States, which is being overturned now, which I think is being welcomed by a large number of people. The academics won't be, the educational institutes may not be very happy, but I think that is the way it is going. And I personally don't think it is a bad thing, the way the education systems are being attempted to be changed as far as the US is concerned.
All right, let's see how things develop from here. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, General Katosh.
Thank you.
Now, the government of India, led by Prime Minister Modi, completed 11 years in office. The government is celebrating the first anniversary of its third term as well. Now, on this occasion, Prime Minister Modi shared a video on social media platform X, highlighting the government's major achievements in the last 11 years. Prime Minister Modi said over the past decade, the NDA government has taken path-breaking steps to uplift several people from the clutches of poverty, focusing on empowerment, infrastructure and inclusion. All the government's key schemes transform the lives of the poor. Initiatives like PM Awas Yojana, PM Ujjwala Yojana, Jan Dhan Yojana and Ayushman Bharat have enhanced access to housing, clean cooking fuel, banking as well as healthcare. The push for direct benefit transfer, digital inclusion and rural infrastructure has ensured transparency and faster delivery of benefits till the last mile. Over 25 crore or 250 million people have defeated poverty due to these schemes. Prime Minister Modi further said that the government remains committed to building an inclusive and self-reliant India where every citizen has the opportunity to live with dignity. Now, Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating the 46,000 crore rupees Jammu and Kashmir development projects, including the Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link and India's first cable-stayed Anji bridge. The high-speed Vande Bharat Express will cut travel time between Katra and Srinagar to 3 to 4 hours, even in harsh weather, that is in the winters, thanks to advanced technology. More in this report.
Not many regions on this planet are synonymous with the phrase paradise on earth, but India's Jammu and Kashmir truly is paradise on earth. To improve connectivity to this breathtaking part of India with the rest of the country, the Indian Railways has completed a rail link using state-of-the-art facilities and technology. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday will dedicate the rail corridor between Srinagar and Katra to the nation. Along with the rail project, Prime Minister Modi will also lay the foundation stone and dedicate to the nation multiple development projects totaling nearly 46,000 crore rupees. The Katra-Srinagar rail project is the key highlight among all these projects, providing the direct rail connectivity to Jammu and Kashmir. The Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link project will provide uninterrupted all-weather rail access to the Kashmir Valley. Adding to this transformative infrastructure, India's first cable-stayed rail bridge, the Anji Bridge, will also be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. Furthermore, the high-speed Vande Bharat Express will now connect Mata Vaishno Devi Katra station in Srinagar in just 3 to 4 hours. Among the many marvels of this ambitious rail project, the Chenab Arch Bridge stands out as the tallest arch bridge in the world, soaring 359 meters high.
ब्रिज का डिजाइन 260 किलोमीटर प्रति घंटा विंड स्पीड, 260 किलोमीटर पर आवर विंड स्पीड और जो जोन 5 सिस्मिक जोन के हिसाब से उसका डिजाइन है, यानी एक बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोसेस से इसका डिजाइन किया गया है. इसकी फाउंडेशन देखो, अगर आप फाउंडेशन फुटबॉल फील्ड के आधे के बराबर है. 30,000 टन स्टील लगा है.
The entire Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link project, costing 43,780 crore rupees, stretches over 272 kilometers and includes 36 tunnels and 943 bridges. Notably, it features India's longest transportation tunnel, T50, which spans 12.77 kilometers. Recognizing the harsh winter conditions of the valley, Indian Railways has also introduced an all-weather friendly special Vande Bharat train. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, the middle class, often called the backbone of our society, is finally finding its voice in welfare narratives. In a historic shift, policies are being drafted for the middle income group at the centre, which aims at transforming the quality of life. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings you this report.
As India rises on the strength of its people, the middle class stands at the forefront, turning their aspirations and ambitions into achievements that shape the nation's identity. Marking 11 years in power, the NDA government, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, shared a report on June 5 that highlights its efforts to support the middle class and improve their well-being. Recent initiatives signal a paradigm shift. Over the past 11 years, income tax policies have steadily provided meaningful relief to the Indian middle class. Even in the recent Union Budget 2025-26, individuals earning up to 12 lakh rupees annually were exempted from paying taxes, a significant measure to empower the Indian middle class. The Modi government's welfare schemes were complemented by prudent fiscal policies, which helped in taming inflation. From 2015-16 to 2024-25, the average rate fell to just 5%. The change in the socio-economic landscape was the result of sound policy, strong coordination with the Reserve Bank, better supply-side management, and above all, higher disposable incomes. The middle class, long hit by rising prices, finally found relief and regained confidence in the economy through tax relief. Besides lifting the lives of the middle class, India has also lifted 171 million people from extreme poverty in the last decade, as per the World Bank's recent report. The direct payment schemes like Jan Dhan played a major role. In its report, Poverty and Equity Brief on India, the World Bank said that over the past decade, India has significantly reduced poverty. Extreme poverty fell from 16.2% in 2011-12 to 2.3% in 2022-23, lifting 171 million people above this line. India also transitioned into the lower middle income category. The World Bank noted, adding, poverty fell from 61.8% to to 28.1%, lifting 378 million people out of poverty. The Modi-led government's initiative to lift the poor out of poverty and also improve the life of the Indian middle class has been focused on affordable urban housing, comprehensive health schemes like Ayushman Bharat, and empowering the youth with skills. By prioritizing ease of living, strengthening social security, and empowering the youth, Modi 3.0 has firmly established itself as pro-middle class. As India moves forward, the middle class stands not just as a beneficiary, but as the backbone of the nation's growth, its dreams shaping the future, its progress defining the country's success. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Now, India's Trade Minister Piyush Goyal has been hosted for a dinner by Italy's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Antonio Tajani, on Thursday. Minister Goyal addressed a distinguished gathering and held meaningful discussions focused on deepening economic ties between India and Italy. And later on in the day, Minister Goyal also addressed a joint press conference along with Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Antonio Tajani.
Work together as partners for the collective good of the people of Italy and India, with both countries having comparative advantages in different areas. I mean, I have over the last 2 days met so many wonderful business persons from Italy who have so much to offer to India.
And on the occasion of World Environment Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in a tree plantation drive and planted a sapling at the Bhagwan Mahavir Vanasthali Park in Delhi, strengthening the Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, or Plant a Sapling in the Mother's Name initiative. The PM also highlighted the importance of reforesting the Aravalli range under the Aravalli Green Wall project. The PM noted that the Aravalli range, one of the oldest on the planet, spans Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana as well as Delhi. Prime Minister Modi also urged the youth of the country to actively participate in the movement and contribute to enhancing the green cover of the planet. The PM also flagged off an electronic buses under an initiative of the Delhi government aimed at boosting sustainable development and clean urban mobility. The Prime Minister said that the initiative will contribute to building a clean and green Delhi. He further noted that this step will also improve the ease of living for the people of Delhi. And the day also saw Prime Minister Modi planting a Synindur sapling at his residence in New Delhi. The plant was gifted to him by brave mothers and sisters of Kutch, Gujarat, who had displayed extraordinary courage and patriotism during the 1971 Indo-Pakistan War. Recalling his recent visit to Gujarat, the PM said that the gift of the Synindur plant will remain a strong symbol of the bravery and inspiration of the women power of our country. Now, in a major success for security forces, senior Maoist leader Narasimha Chalam alias Sudhakar, who had a bounty of 40 lakh rupees on his head, has been killed in an encounter with security forces in Chhattisgarh's Bijapur district on Thursday, days after the elusive chief of CPI Maoist was gunned down. Originally hailing from Andhra Pradesh, the 67-year-old was involved in radicalization of youth and also responsible for numerous Naxal attacks in Chhattisgarh, resulting in the death of civilians and security personnel. A bike expedition team of the Indian Army was flagged off today for a challenging journey through the rugged terrain of the Kumaon sector. The expedition is led by a lady officer of 8th Engineer Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Aditi Mishra, accompanied by 11 soldiers. The team will cover an arduous distance of 1,100 kilometers over a span of 9 days, navigating some of the most demanding routes in the region. The purpose of the rally is to reach out to the remotest villages in Kumaon region and also to enhance camaraderie in the Indian Armed Forces, along with motivating the youth of the country.
Kumaon Quest, which is actually a very thrilling motorcycle expedition along with the Hero Motocorp. So this is for the first time that 8th Indian Regiment is doing such a thing, and we are going to the regions of the Uttarakhand, Kumaon region, and we're hoping for a stunning landscape and going and interacting with the veterans.
Sara Irani and Andrea Bavasori of Italy secured a straight-set victory over Americans Taylor Townsend and Evan King to claim the French Open mixed doubles crown on Thursday. The Italian duo were toe-to-toe with their opponents initially, securing the first set by a scoreline of 6-4. But in the end, Irani and Bavasori cruised victory as they clinched the second set comfortably 6-2. With this triumph, Ernie and Bavasori have claimed their second mixed doubles Grand Slam crown, with the first coming at the US Open last year. And in the women's singles, Aryna Sabalenka has advanced to the final of the French Open after a back and forth encounter. Sabalenka secured the win over Iga Swiatek to qualify for a first ever final at Roland Garros. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen and you're good to go. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.